Folks, as mentioned in the daily financial news, I am so lucky. We are frankly also lucky to have a 10-year Wall Street veteran with us every Monday morning, bright and early, the one and only Taylor from Life Goal Investments. How you doing, buddy?
The honor is definitely on my end, not on yours, but I appreciate the kind words nonetheless.
I appreciate that, man. A lot of stuff's been going on the last couple of weekends. This weekend was, just as crazy.
No slouch.
Credit Suisse gets bought for a 60% discount to Friday's close. Signature Bank gets sold, kind of. They left $60 billion in loans behind. SVB still can't be sold. This, I think, is the third weekend it still can't be sold. So now, private equity is going to come buy some parts. I think these balance sheets at regional banks and, frankly, the big banks are not nearly as pristine as everybody thinks. I think it's going to be most obvious at the regional banks. Many of them, obviously, First Republic is getting the lion's share of, I think it's even down this morning, but there will be others to follow because, again, it's a balance sheet problem. And we got to talk about regional banks because you can look at indexes, you can look at all these things. What is a Wall Street veteran looking at with the regional banks? Because some people are like, buy the dip. And other people are like, shotgun marriage. Look at UBS and Credit Suisse. Where are you at?
Yeah, so let's discuss kind of the root of the problem, and then let's get into like, hey, are we going to see mergers here, and how does that play out? Because I think there's some nice history to look at in that frame as well. So when you think about what's going on as a whole right now, this is kind of some of these banks. SVB, for example, was one of the fastest growing banks over the past 3 years because VC money spilled into the space, et cetera. But it came at really an inopportune time as they're buying bonds at incredibly low yields.
And as rates, not protecting the risk on the upside, interest rate
and not hedging the risk on the other side. No doubt about it. There were definitely mistakes. I'm not making any excuses for that.
That's fine.
So obviously they just had this liquidity mismatch where all of a sudden they're getting met with massive withdrawals and they don't have the liquidity on the bond side, the stuff rolling off like they naturally should have to match that liability. And then they were forced to sell bonds at inopportune times and absolutely get smoked because of it. So it's interesting. That's what's going on. And now what we're seeing is that regional banks, people are starting to realize they don't have the same regulatory scrutiny that large banks have. And that's like a big thing that people are like, uh-oh, what is going on with regional banks right now? And it's not to say that there's nothing at the large banks. Like it was interesting. Barron's reported on a story this weekend that said unrealized bond losses on Bank of America's bond portfolio was $109 billion at the end of 2022.
Yeah,
like that is a massive, massive number. But their balance sheet is so much larger. And as long as they don't get hit with significant withdrawals, they'll just allow that to roll off and they will come due at par. So it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
But that's not the case with some of these regional banks. And one of the things that comes to regional banks right now is they just applied to the government as a consortium. They came together and the regional bank consolidation or regional bank, not consolidation, the regional banking forum, I'll call it. I don't know the exact name of it.
The group, right? They're all together. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. So they just wrote an open letter to regulatory firms that said, listen, we need you to increase the FDIC insurance level to above 250. We need that to happen because what we're seeing right now are assets bleeding out of our institutions to large institutions. And it's natural why people are doing that. They look at it and say, listen, is XYZ local bank going to get bailed out if they fail? I don't know. But I tell you what,
Janet Yellen said no. I mean, if
correct.
You saw,
Janet Yellen said no.
She said no. Right. The small banks not. So there is no question. Your little mom and pop, 2-branch bank is not going to be bailed out. I mean, that's true. But here's the reality. So there's a couple of things. A, Janet Yellen said no, so we can cross that off. We know the answer. 2, most people who are rightly scared have less than 250.
Correct.
So in reality,
line of delineation there. Well put.
Yeah. So in reality, their fear, while correct, the FDIC has a 100% pristine record of making good on 250. And I believe even today's craziness, that won't be, nobody will lose if your balance is under 250. But mom and dad don't care.
Right.
The trust has been broken. I've been telling you, it's all of the people who study economics either get lost in the data or they realize it's all about consumer psychology.
Correct.
And I said 2 weeks ago, when SVB went out that weekend, we had now starting recession. The consumer is broken. I must have had 15 phone calls from people that I haven't talked to in years asking me about this. And they had 30 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand. And I told them FDIC this, they're like, no, I'm going to take it out on Monday. I'm like, go ahead. I mean, I'm not even, but That's what happened.
Right.
And so this open letter, this FDIC raise from 250 to 500, shoot $1 million. Elizabeth Warren is campaigning now to raise the limit. It's only going to protect millionaires. It doesn't help
you're
mom and
100%
dad.
correct.
Mom and dad are already protected. So this
You're
is
100%
all
correct.
bullshit theater. And mom and dad are still going to Bank of America, JP Morgan, Citigroup, or Bank of America, whatever the other fourth one is. It's
Yep. Yeah,
it's
but
all crap.
I'll be
It's
honest with you,
theater.
though, I do think what's going to happen is I think the government just set a precedent with SVB, with Silicon Valley Bank, because
And
they said,
Signature.
listen, we're going to pay out all depositors. So I do think the precedent is set now that all depositors, likely this regional bank, letter that
And
got
I'm
put
telling
through,
you, it only protects millionaires. Mom and dad aren't protected. Mom and dad are already scared. Mom and dad don't understand my deposits are protected. They're like, no,
Yep.
I'm scared. And because I'm scared, I'm doing something.
So think about this, though. Think about the tangibility of it, like the actual, hands-on portion of it. And I don't necessarily know the processes that play out here, but like, what happens when the bank goes under and you have $180,000? I know the FDIC mails you a check, but like, when is that accessible and things like that? Like, I'll be honest, even if I didn't have.
So historically speaking, I've studied this. Generally speaking, as everyone knows, there are a couple of exceptions, IndyMac being one of them. They're generally closed on a Friday, and the 250 limit is generally available Monday by noon. So it's a weekend.
Well done. Well done.
It's a weekend. Yeah. There are exceptions. Like if a bank run really happens and it goes out on Wednesday, it could be a couple more days.
Sure.
But generally speaking, it's a full weekend.
Yep. But I guess my point of that is when you look at it from maybe someone that isn't in the space and doesn't know that detail. I didn't know that detail myself, obviously. But I guess my point there is like, you do have concern, right? If you're like, hey, I know they're going to bail this out, but like, how does it functionally work? Now you have the answer.
Yeah, but this is my point. All of this is theater and horseshit.
Yep.
The small deposits are already gone. And if you don't know what happens next, this is the big thing. And we'll talk about this later because it has to be its own video. Regional banks are on the cusp of having a liquidity crisis. And given fractional reserve lending, it's on reverse now. That's why big banks had to take 30 billion and shove it at First Republic. That's why you're going to see more of these things. That's why you will see shotgun marriages to partner up balance sheets. Right? So when you reserve out 9-1 and then people remove the 10, right, it's a problem.
Right. So let's talk about the marriages, right? Because I think that people are holding their hands up right now and going, listen, why can't SVB find a suitor to buy them? And so like I did a little research.
There's only one answer. There's only one answer.
What do you got?
The balance sheet is horseshit.
Oh, totally agree.
That's the answer.
but let's look at history. So like, I guess what I'm getting at here, like UBS was basically just forced to buy Credit Suisse with a horseshit balance sheet too. Yeah. Like their balance
but they got a 60% discount to Friday close. Dude, I was afraid.
$3 billion for one of the largest banks in the world.
Yeah. I actually said this morning in my daily financial news, I was terrified that at the open, all of our banks, including the big ones, would take a haircut because people would realize, oh my God, banks, you don't get a premium today, right? Usually when you acquire something, you pay a premium. Now we're getting discounts. Are you kidding me?
Correct.
That was a big fear I had. And thus
it tells you how bad the balance sheet really is. And that's exactly what's going on with SVB. And what's going on is these banking executives or I don't even know who's necessarily fully in control of that bank at this point. The FDIC is partially in control, but they're valuing things, significantly above what they're actually worth. And this happened in 2008 too. Like Bear Stearns got purchased in March of 2008 by JP Morgan, and JP Morgan was expected to buy them for $20 a share. They bought them for $2 a share. And like, so this is history is, the indicator of what's going to happen here. These people that are the acquirers that have the strength in the balance sheet are going to look at this thing and say, regional banks right now are in free fall from a valuation standpoint, especially the ones that are stressed. Let's let them fall. Then we'll step in and buy.
Well, and oh, by the way, let's talk about another real world example. Signature Bank in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
They were bought by New York Bank Corp, something like that, a subsidiary of New York Bank Corp,
Community Bank or something. Yeah, a consortium of regional banks. Yes.
But again, I want to put a big ass asterisk on that because they weren't bought in totality.
Correct.
They left behind $60 billion in crap and $4 billion in deposit. Oh my God. These balance sheets are not good. And again, the people that think gigantic inflation is coming, you're not paying attention.
No.
It
No,
is
no,
a
no, no. This is
liquidity
going to
crisis
constrain
on
credit. Yep.
Yes.
This is going to constrain credit across the board. The people are going to be less likely to lend because, again, Signature Bank, they had bad loans on their balance sheet, and they were like, "Hey, we'll buy you, but we're not buying that crap."
Yeah, we're not buying that. We're going to buy this stuff over here, the banking deposits, the this or that. We're going to leave the crap there and let the FDIC eat it.
You got 100 acres and you have a beautiful pond and forest, but that house is a piece of shit. We don't want that thing without. Carve that out.
We'll zone that out. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this regional banking crisis will eventually be behind us, right? I have a saying, good times never last, bad times never last. We are in it. I would probably tell you, if we were going to use a sports analogy, unfortunately, this would be interesting to see if you agree. Actually, you know what? I'll ask you first so I don't lead the witness. Let's use a baseball game. 9 innings. I was going to say that too. We are in the second inning.
Yep.
We're in the second inning. And I know you're putting out a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, people are just, people are scared. They're interested. They want to know what the heck's going on. And it seems like the tangible answers to simple questions don't get put out. So like I've been posting a ton of stuff. I'm like, hey, what happens if my brokerage firm goes under?
I saw that. Great job.
So like just that stuff in general is like, people need the real answers to this. Where's the protection? Where is it not? Where am I exposed? Where am I not exposed?
Yeah. So Taylor, you do a lot of stuff on Instagram. People need to follow you more and more. Your channel should blow up because you bring the real truth. Folks, if you want to ask Taylor some questions, leave comments below. Follow him at Life Goal Investments because he puts it out every day. Great stuff. TikTok and Instagram. Thanks, buddy.
You're the man. Thank you.